Whew.
All right. So this is tying in with talk shows. On July 24th, 2000, a Jerry Springer episode titled Secret Mistresses Confronted featured Ralph and Eleanor Panitz and Ralph's ex-wife, Nancy Campbell. Eleanor, Ralph's current secret wife, made claims that Nancy wouldn't take no for an answer regarding the end of her and Ralph's marriage. It was also claimed that she stalked the couple and forced them to get married in secret. So the couple felt they had no other choice but to go on Jerry Springer and tell Nancy that her ex-husband Ralph is now married to Eleanor. In May of 2000, Nancy Campbell had no idea what was actually in store for her when Ralph called her from Chicago to ask her to appear on the show. After 3 years of separation, which was often accompanied with violence, Nancy thought that she was finally going to get her husband back. The night before the show filmed, Ralph spent the night with Nancy in her hotel room. Nancy was confident that day when she went into the studio to film their episode that it was Eleanor who was going to be in for the surprising reveal. But sadly, Nancy was wrong. From the moment Nancy appeared on the stage, she was booed by the crowd, to whom she was portrayed as an unhinged, jealous stalker. It was then that Ralph and Eleanor told Nancy about their secret marriage to each other while taking turns taunting Nancy. During the filming, Eleanor told Nancy, "I want you to leave us alone. I want a normal life." Nancy retorted with, "No, you don't. Neither does Ralph. He loves the excitement," and then revealed that the two had sex that morning before the show in her hotel room. When Jerry asked Ralph why, Ralph's answer was that he wanted to keep Nancy illusioned so that she would appear on the show. "I thought she would be humiliated enough to realize it was over." Eleanor then quipped, "You can't humiliate this woman." It was then that Jerry stated the obvious to Nancy. "He is telling you he doesn't want to be with you." And Nancy uttered a simple, "Fine, bye," and left the stage of television for at least a few months until her murder. Ralph and Eleanor met online in February of 1999 after both of their divorces from their previous marriages were finalized. The couple were then married on March 17th in 2000. Eleanor's sister and mother weren't very fond of Ralph and feared that he was abusive, and even voiced their distrust of him to Eleanor, which Eleanor was instantly dismissive of, or obsessive even. When it was revealed to Eleanor on the show that Ralph and Nancy had sex that morning, Eleanor faulted the show because they put Ralph and Nancy in the same hotel together. She didn't blame Ralph, the individual that made the decision to have sex with Nancy. As a result of this, a month after the filming of the show, Ralph and Eleanor split up. During that time, Ralph ended up with Nancy again. You know, the woman that he took on the Jerry Springer show and accused of stalking him. The same woman who he and his current wife took a very cruel delight in humiliating. Yeah, that same Nancy. The two of them even put down a payment on a house together. Ralph and Nancy bought a house together. Then, in early July, Ralph started to send emails to Eleanor begging her to take him back. So in July of 2000, Eleanor and Ralph got back together and moved into the house that Ralph and Nancy bought and lived in together. Nancy had just moved out days before, but she wanted the house back. So, on the morning of July 24th, 2000, there had been a hearing in which a judge had granted Nancy full possession of the house. And also, on the same day, the same judge filed a restraining order for Nancy against Ralph. Once this was all in motion, Nancy showed up, and I need to add, this is Sarasota, Florida. So he showed up at the Sarasota home. Nancy showed up at the Sarasota home with the police, and Ralph, Eleanor, and Ralph's 25-year-old nephew, Marcus, were given 15 minutes to vacate the house. Now, keep in mind, while all of this was going on, it had still only been 2 months since they filmed their episode of The Jerry Springer Show, and that episode was scheduled to air that very same day at 3 p.m. As a result of the restraining order, Ralph left the house and went to a local bar to watch the episode, leaving Eleanor and Marcus to pack up the rest of their belongings from the house. A couple of hours later, a very drunk Ralph shows back up to the house. Realizing that Ralph was as drunk as he was, Eleanor put him in bed while her and Marcus continued to pack up the car and their belongings. This was when Marcus noticed that the police were now at the house with Nancy. So Eleanor and Marcus helped Ralph out of a window and told him to meet them at a local convenience store. Eleanor and Marcus then left the Sarasota home to go meet Ralph, but as they left, Eleanor panicked and told Mark that he needed to go back to the house because she believed that Ralph was going to kill Nancy. So Eleanor herself had like a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
Marcus went back to the house while Eleanor waited in the car down at the end of the street. And when Marcus got back to the house, he immediately noticed something was wrong because the front door was blocked. He then ran to the neighbor's house and told them to call 911. Eleanor was driving around the block, and she ended up driving around the block a few times. And then she saw Ralph walking down the street in her direction. She stopped the car and told him to get in, and the couple fled. Minutes later, the police arrived at the scene and discovered the violent crime that one officer said was one of the worst he had ever been to. Nancy's body was found on the kitchen floor, badly beaten and strangled to death. She was beaten so savagely that the police couldn't even identify her at first. Like, yeah, that's how bad. Police wanted to question Ralph, like, right away, like, instantly. But right now, at this point in time, him and Eleanor took off, so they were unsure where they were. They didn't know if Eleanor was another victim or an accomplice. And as the investigation at the house went on, police instantly turned their attention right to Ralph. Now, I'm going to point out, too, at this point in time, Marcus, Ralph's nephew, was with the police. Like, he never left. And he gave them a description of Ralph, what he was wearing, everything. And yeah, this actually ends up becoming a key piece of evidence here, because the first thing they noticed were all the Skechers shoe prints impressions that were left all around Nancy's, the blood around Nancy's body, even on her face. They, found like part of the Skechers shoe print.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when the story gets weird, kind of, because, once again, well, I mean, the whole story is weird, but Eleanor stated in her statements during the time that she picked up Ralph, and they were on the run, she believed Nancy had arranged to have Ralph deported. Her claim is not that she suspected that her husband murdered Nancy, which was what Marcus, who was a witness, stated that she did say to him, that she was panicking. She was afraid that Ralph was going to kill Nancy.
Yeah. But
once she came in, her official, her side of the story was that, she believed that Nancy called INS and that Ralph was about to be deported. So she just started to drive for Maine, which also happens to be where she's from. Because it made me wonder at first. I'm like, why Maine? And then I did some looking to find out, that's actually where she's from. Now, she claimed that neither she nor Ralph had any knowledge at all of Nancy's murder until her father reached her on her cell phone a couple days later and told her to turn herself in. So I just want to, pause the narrative of the story for a second, because, I'm not buying this story at all. I'm not. The evidence suggests, you're looking at straight evidence, the shoe prints and everything, there are other things that suggest, he very much so did this. So I refuse to think that he wasn't walking down the street covered in blood. She had to have seen that and just...
If he beat her that bad,
Yes. If cops can't even identify this body because it was so, in their own words, savagely beaten. Yeah, we're definitely talking the guy's a walking crime scene. Literally, he's a walking crime scene. But yeah. So, anyways, I'm calling bullshit on Eleanor's story. Your story's bullshit. Anyways, once they got to the Sarasota police station, the cops, it took them no time to notice that this dude's wearing Skechers.
And they were the same exact Skechers that even Marcus described to them in his description of Ralph and what he was wearing. And so, they took the shoes and went and, ran them at the lab. And sure enough, they were exact matches. And they even found traces of Nancy's blood on the Skechers that Ralph was still wearing. So, yeah. Once again,
people that don't watch crime shows,
Apparently not. They watch Jerry Springer, but, anyways. Ralph was arrested on July 28th, 2000 for the murder of Nancy. The Sarasota police initially charged him with first-degree murder, but then the state's attorney's office changed their charge to secondary murder, which he was ultimately convicted of. And he was also found guilty of violating a domestic violence order. Ralph was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. When they were in court, the judge ended up... I get the sense that she really wasn't too crazy about Ralph. And at one point in time, she said that the sentence that was given to him, was the only just sentence, as they displayed pictures of Nancy's battered face to the courtroom. She also went on to offer a hefty little reprimand there to the Jerry Springer Show. And here's a quote from the judge. Ralph Panitz, Eleanor Panitz, and Nancy Campbell were brought to Chicago by the Jerry Springer Show, then manipulated by producers of that show. And this was Circuit Judge Nancy Donnellan. Are ratings more important than the dignity of human life? Shame on you, shame on you. Ralph also ended up having his sentence delivered to him over a television screen because he refused to enter the courtroom. He just wouldn't go into the courtroom, which I didn't know that was an option. Aren't, kind of like you don't have a choice, dude. You're guilty, you're innocent, but whatever, it's your trial. You need to be in there. But apparently, attendance is optional. I don't know. Yeah. Whatever. At least in this case. So, Jeffrey and Gary Campbell, they're the grown sons of Nancy Campbell. They were present during their stepfather's trial. They were all in attendance for this. So yeah, during the trial too, it was also established that by the time the show had aired and Ralph had murdered Nancy, court documents were able to show just a history of spousal abuse of Nancy by Ralph. And they were also able to prove that during that time too, there had been, quite a bit of fighting between Nancy and Eleanor too. And it was reported in court that that day, as Ralph was handed his sentence, that Eleanor could be seen laughing and smiling in the court, and then went on to say, "We don't agree with this verdict. We don't think this was a fair trial." She said, "We really expect this will be overturned and we'll have a new trial." Which is just, I don't understand why you would think that. But, once again, this whole time, I'm sorry. As of, now it's been 21 years. As for the Jerry Springer Show, Nancy Campbell's sons, Jeffrey and Gary, they sued Springer, his producers, and the distribution in 2002. But the end result was that Campbell's estate ended up dropping the lawsuit due to a ruling in the Jenny Jones Show case. So that's where at least the two of these have a little bit of a tie-in. I think there was an attorney that was involved in both of them too, like one of the attorneys or something. It's been 21 years since the murder of Nancy, and Eleanor and Ralph are actually still married. She goes to the prison where he's lodged every Saturday and Sunday to visit him. She also is still convinced that he's innocent and that he didn't murder Nancy. Like thoroughly convinced. They also, because the couple also made another appearance on a television show on the Discovery Channel called Prison Wives in 2010. where, they discussed, the murder of Nancy, and how, and still maintain Ralph's innocence. Yeah, in 2010, they were still like, yeah, he's innocent. He's innocent. So, I knew not too long ago when we did this, he was still in prison, and they were still together. So, and yeah, the show Prison Wives too, because I ended up watching that entire episode, because that's how engrossed I was in this thing. When I was like, wow, okay, yeah, man, just even see, this woman has ran herself into debt. It's like, it's crazy. And that episode, I do believe, is on YouTube. So if we can find that, we can link that below. That's a weird story of the Jerry Springer murder. So,
yeah,
a little more complicated, I think, too, than the Jenny Jones one. Mm-hmm. I mean, not to say, like, once again, nobody deserves this. Not saying that. It's really kind of sad. Well, it's not really kind of sad. It is really sad. But, people do strange things.
Talk shows aren't what they used to be.
All right. That's our story for this week. Thank you. And don't forget to check us out on Etsy. Click subscribe.
We got like more stuff. We don't have these
Yes,
yet,
we do.
But we do
check out our merch.
Shirts. On Etsy. Let's see. Have we watched anything interesting?
I kind of got locked into the Scary Fairy Godmother YouTube channel the other day. I think I sent you a link to that.
Yeah, I haven't got to it yet.
I actually had fun with her fairy bestiaries that she created. Started at the alphabet. Starts with A and is working her way through the alphabet, and really kind of enjoyed it. I ended up binge watching all of them. So I would say definitely check that out, especially if, you want to hear about spooky. And there's also spooky stories. That's my bit of nerdery for the week.
You still can't see the details, but yeah, I didn't trim the wick on that one. What was that?
As you can see, they burn very well.
That's cinnamon vanilla. Let's see. I've been doing some more reviews and things on my other channel, Internet Kindness, and I will just pimp Schizoid Angst for doing his him and Burb doing his interview with Eleanor Greenberg, and I love her. Wait a minute. I love her. Let's see, what else? Have I been watching anything?
I think the one thing that I've been... See, I kind of ran out of some stuff because I went on this horrible spree of, like, binge watching The Sopranos, which we discussed before, and then I finally finished it, and I kind of was, like, TV'd out for a little bit and took a break, and then now the only thing I've been watching streaming is I started watching Hawkeye on Disney Plus.
If you wait long enough, it stops. Hold on. So I just put up a review of At Eternity's Gate on my other channel also. That's about all I've watched lately. I guess there's a Van Gogh exhibit in Pittsburgh, or it's gone now, I don't know. I was hearing about that from my old art teacher.
I need to start hiding in my bathtub and doing film reviews with the camcorder. Tonight I have the Lazy Cat backdrop. I don't know if you can see him.
Yeah, it's right beside your ear. But yes, thanks for watching, and check out our Etsy and such, and
yes,
hopefully have more stuff up sometime. Yep. Happy holidays, since we might not see you before
New Year
or so.
Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night.